What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Toma Todito Show, episode 95. We are that close to 100 episodes, and this is all thanks to you guys. Thank you guys for continuing to check out the podcast and check in each and every episode. Of course, you could find our entire catalog on YouTube as well. Feel free to leave us a comment there. Find me on Twitter. Shoot me a message. You can find us on Instagram. That's usually the first format that I reach out to, where I start posting, do a quick caption and uploading the episodes through there. And of course, we're available on every single one of the major podcast platforms out there, from Apple Podcasts to Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, you name it. We're available on every single one of the major platforms out there. Deezer is another one that's really big, where we have a big following from. Listen, I owe this to you guys. Episode 95, and it couldn't get any more special than to talk and cover a preview of this Saturday's big fight between Jorge Linares and Devin Haney. The Dream, Devin Haney, out of Oakland, California, now residing in Las Vegas for the last couple years, fights out of Las Vegas. And the fight, of course, will be brought to you. It'll be live from the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. Devin Haney with a perfect record of 25-0 and 15 knockouts. To his credit, the man is a phenom. He's an upcoming, not prospect anymore, because he's a champion. He has a version of the WBC title. He has the full version of the WBC title, as a matter of fact. And we'll talk about that controversy between him and Teofimo Lopez, because there's a lot of confusion. And the confusion is not that some fans are misinformed and others aren't, or that some forums, media forums, are misinformed or covering it one way while others are covering it another. We'll break that down today. Let's look at the fighters. As far as Devin Haney goes, perfect record. His last fight came late last year against Yuri Gamboa in what was a kind of a sleeper of a performance. Not the most exciting, Alfredo Santiago, which was the first defense of his interim version title. That was also unanimous decision. Kind of took it a little bit mellow there. Zaur Abdullayev, that's where he fought for the vacant interim title, and that's dating back to September of 19. And he stops Abdullayev in the fourth round. That was a one-sided showing by Devin Haney, in which he showed his entire arsenal in that fight. So followed by two sleepers, I guess, you could say, on the following two fights. Yuri Gamboa will make anybody look bad. His style, his approach. He used to be so explosive dating back to the early years of his career. He's definitely in the latter stages of his career. And now it's almost like he just focuses on making it a confusing chess battle for his opponents, and he just makes anybody look bad. He did it to Terence Crawford early. He made Terence Crawford look bad early in the rounds, until Terence Crawford switched stances, figured out his timing, and then put Yuri Gamboa down. So he's able to do it to him. He's able to do it to just about anybody that Yuri Gamboa gets into the ring with. He's able to make them look bad. It's just his style. It's the way that he fights. It's that pedigree, that Cuban pedigree that he brings with him. He figured out the test. Devin Haney figured out the Gamboa test, and he's done it against all 24 opponents prior to Gamboa. That was his 25th win. And he's excelling. He's a phenom. He's someone to keep an eye out for. I know Eddie Hearn says that he's going to be the next great, that he's the next Mayweather for the lightweight division. I don't know. That's saying a lot, but Devin Haney is definitely talented. He's got great boxing, good pedigree, high quality pedigree boxing, good hands, good speed, good foot movement, decent power. It's got good pop behind his hands. And the recent report is that he's been knocking out several of his sparring partners during this training camp in preparation for Jorge Linares. So it will be interesting. This is a fight that Devin Haney needs to make the statement on. If he's going to pick a fight to make a statement on, this is it. this is the one. With all the controversy going on about who's the real champion, is Teofimo Lopez the real undisputed at lightweight or not? Is this a real version of the title? Blah, blah, blah. We'll cover that right now. But listen, with all that noise going on, Devin Haney needs to cement this and set his foot down on this one and cement his status as a champion in the lightweight division, as a who's who in the 135-pound division, by defeating a legendary fighter in Jorge Linares. 25-0, the dream, Devin Miles Haney putting his title on the line, and it's the full version, not the interim. This is the full version WBC title that he's bringing with him to the ring. So that's key, right? And I mentioned that. I stop and pause and mention that slowly so you capture that, and we'll cover that as to why that is and where the confusion comes. So we look at across the ring. The man standing across the ring from him is going to be none other than El Nino De Oro out of Barinas, Venezuela, who has been living for the last few years and fighting out of Tokyo, Japan. He flew in from Tokyo to Las Vegas and looking to get his hands around another title, wrap another title, major world title around his waist. And he's held the WBC, a version of the WBC title around his waist for many years before, just a few years back. El Nino De Oro, Jorge Linares, walks into the ring with 47 wins, 29 of those wins by way of knockout, and 5 defeats. Something key here is that every single one of his 5 losses, he's either been stopped or knocked out, meaning he's been unable to continue due to cuts, due to injury, or he's been knocked out, flat out cold. All 5 of his defeats have gone by stoppage. So that's something key. He's been stopped, or he's been actually dropped multiple times, and this is dating back years. Dating back to the early stages in his career, back when he was around his 15th fight, I believe, his 15th fight or so, he ended up fighting Jean Javier Sotelo, and that was back in the 126-pound division. He ended up getting dropped twice in the second round, and then he drops Sotelo down twice to come away with the stoppage. It was a fast, explosive, action-packed fight, 2-round fight. It was a 10-rounder, but it only lasted 2 rounds. Linares goes down twice. Sotelo goes down twice. You could find that on YouTube. It's an exciting fight. And so Linares has a history of being dropped. And since then, we've seen him hit the canvas many, many times before, and he gets up. Does he have a suspect chin? Maybe, but he also has a strong chin because he's able to get back into the fight, get composed, and keep fighting for many more rounds. So it's a matter of mettle, it's a matter of heart, a matter of pride. Jorge Linares leaves it in the ring each and every time out. And the fact that he's been stopped tells you a lot, that regardless of him being in the latter stages of his career, which he is, in the latter stages of his career, he's still able to fight with that fire in which he's going to go out on a shield. The only way to get rid of him is to put him out. Otherwise, he's going to keep coming at you like a zombie. So the man, 47 wins, 5 losses, 29 of those wins by way of knockout. His last victory came against Carlos Morales, and that was early last year as the pandemic was getting underway. He beat Carlos Morales. That was around February of 2020, on Valentine's Day, actually, of 2020, February 14th. So Linares got cut badly in that fight as well. So other than that, I mean, you look at his resume, the man is he's fighting in a 19-year career right now. It's dating back all the way to December of 2002 when he kicked off his professional career. He's fought as light as bantamweight and as high as junior welterweight or super lightweight, which is the same division in which we just covered this past Saturday between Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. So think about that. He's fought as low as 122 pounds, as high as 140 pounds. He's won titles in multiple divisions. He's held WBC and WBA version of titles throughout his featherweight campaign, his super featherweight campaign, and in the lightweight division. He's found the most success in his career in this very division in which he's returning and campaigning at the 135-pound division. Between 2014 and 2018, Jorge Linares held either a version of the WBA championship, which is a super championship, or he held the regular title. He held the diamond version of the WBC Lightweight title. He's held either or both at the same time between 2014 to 2018. So he's been at the top of this division until he was finally dethroned by Vasily Lomachenko, in which Vasily Lomachenko gained everything else along with that. That was a big fight for Vasily Lomachenko. It cemented him as a king in the lightweight division at that time, and there was no stopping him from there on. That's where some of the controversy began, and it dragged on to where it carried over towards Devin Haney. So Jorge Linares, I mean, you look at his storied resume. He's fought Antonio DeMarco. He's fought Oscar Larios, Rocky Juarez, Jesus Chavez. Whew. I mean, his resume, Gamaliel Diaz is another one. Ira Terry, Francisco Javier Prieto, Kevin Mitchell, Anthony Croya twice. Amazing fights against Anthony Croya. If you haven't checked those out, he fought Luke Campbell. It was an awesome fight against Luke Campbell where he beats Luke Campbell by decision. He beats Mercito Gesta in the very next fight and then loses to Vasily Lomachenko. So just look at those three high quality and actually 4 quality opponents, because he fought Anthony Croya September of 16, in which he beats him by decision, and then in the rematch, just a few months later, he fights him in March of 17 in the rematch, beats Anthony Croya again. Then came Luke Campbell, September of 17, Mercito Gesta to kick off 2018 in January, and then May 12th of 2018, where he surrendered in round 10 and lost his titles and got a 4th defeat in his record against none other than the great Vasily Lomachenko. So this is going to be an awesome fight. How does the fight play out? Devin Haney, young, fast hands, good footwork, has good pop behind his hands, behind his punches. Very good general ring IQ, ring generalship. He has good movement. He reads his opponents well, but he lacks the experience. If you look at his resume and who he's fought, that's going to be the number one thing to look at right now is the experience. He's fighting really good, and he's been fighting really good and looking really good against the opposition that's been put in front of him. A lot of it has to do with the matchmaking, and who's been doing the matches and setting up the matches for him. They've been stepping him up slowly. He's got 25 wins to date, but he hasn't really been tested. Yuriorkis Gamboa was one of his harder tests, and it showed. It showed that there's levels to the game. Yuriorkis Gamboa is a hard time for anybody, and he proved to be a hard time for Devin Haney. Devin Haney figured him out. Devin Haney outpunched him. He outpointed him. He cruised to an easy decision on the scorecards, but the fight did not look easy at all. The fight, optically, visually, the fight was somewhat of a sleeper because neither fighter was really looking to engage, and when they would end up tying up, and it was a clinch fest of a fight. Check it out. And check that out, and then check out some of his previous fights. Maybe the Abdullayev fight would be a good one to check out, so you could get an idea of his pop, of his power. Now, with the news that he's been knocking out 2 or 3 of his recent sparring partners in this very same training camp that he finds himself in, or that he just finished in preparation for Jorge Linares, means that he's putting in some strength, he's putting in some size, and he's found something there. If he's increase the pop behind his punches. So that's going to be really interesting. If he stops Jorge Linares, again, Jorge Linares has been dropped throughout his entire 19-year career. He's known to go to the canvas, but he gets up. If Devin Haney stops Jorge Linares in emphatic fashion and he makes a statement against Jorge Linares, yes, this is a 19-year career Jorge Linares that's stepping into this ring, but he's in good shape. He's a hell of a fighter. He has really good knowledge of that ring. He knows the ins and outs. He's got speed to his favor, still has speed. Usually the boxers, when they're that storied, that far into their careers, the last thing that leaves the boxer and the fighter is the power. But everything else starts diminishing, and you start seeing a diminished version of these fighters. Now, as far as Jorge Linares goes, his speed is still there. His footwork is there. He's still fast. He's probably going to be a step behind Devin Haney as far as speed and footwork. But the IQ, the ring IQ is going to be where I see Jorge Linares shining, and the experience. How hard can he make this fight for Devin Haney to where he could get Devin Haney to start questioning whether he needs to dig, whether he needs to step up his game or go an extra level? Jorge Linares is that guy. He is that test. If Jorge Linares gets back to the top of the lightweight division and beats Devin Haney is young enough to where he could bounce back. Jorge Linares, what a storied career. What a way to add another notch to his resume, and get his hands around another major world title and possibly get himself back into contention, this time against maybe Teofimo Lopez, should he be successful against George Kambosos in a few weeks' time, or maybe in a rematch against Vasily Lomachenko. Listen, Jorge Linares' world will open up, and rightfully so, towards the end of his career, to get another one or two big marquee fights to close out his career. He's 19 years into his career. Devin Haney is just a few years into his career. If he makes a statement with a stoppage, the sky's the limit for the dream, right? The sky's going to be the limit for young Devin Haney. He stops Jorge Linares. This will be the first big name on his resume. Maybe second, I guess we could add Yuriorkis Gamboa to that, right? Two huge names back to back, adding to his resume. I mean, there won't be any dispute. So how does this fight play out? There's going to be a lot of speed. There's going to be some pop in the first 2-3 rounds of the fight, maybe even up to the fourth round, and then they're going to settle in, and that's where the fight's going to get interesting. Jorge Linares in numerous interviews has now said, if Devin Haney tries to make the fight with me that he made with Yuriorkis Gamboa, he's going to be in trouble, because he's not going to let him cruise. He's going to push the pace. And Devin Haney, again, with the recent reports that he's been dropping his sparring partners, yes, it's only sparring. I get it. But that means that he's found something. He's found another level in his game, and he's pushing himself. And if he's that improved from the last version that we saw a few months back against Gamboa, then I can't wait, because if he stops Linares and makes a statement by stopping him, especially if it's somewhat early in the rounds or even in the middle rounds where he puts in a few rounds, gets in a good sweat, gets in some good work, and then finds a way to stop a veteran like Linares, Devin Haney's going to look amazing, and his stock is going to continue rising up. If he loses, I don't think his stock takes much of a hit. Haney, that is. If he wins, his stock's going to skyrocket. For Linares, if he loses, he's most likely going to be calling it a day within maybe by this year, by the end of this year, maybe by next year when he caps it off at 20, depending what other big opportunity presents itself for him. Other than that, I think Linares could win a decision against Haney if he outboxes Haney, if he pressures Haney, if he makes it a tough fight for Haney by not letting him take any rounds off, by not letting him cruise. That experience comes into play for Linares heavily, just based on his resume, his storied resume. So I think Linares could pull out a decision on this one. I see Haney either pulling out a decision if he outpoints Linares and just boxes him beautifully, but the pop that Haney possesses at the moment, I think should be enough to stop Linares. I think Haney stops Linares if it goes Haney's way. I think Linares, if it's to go his way, it's going to be by decision. I don't see him stopping Devin Haney. He'll test that chin, but I don't think he has the pop to knock out Devin Haney. Not at this stage in his career with such a young dog, like a young live dog, like Haney is at the moment. Now, that's how I see the fight playing out. Let's look at the controversy. Is Devin Haney the real WBC champion, or is Teofimo Lopez the real undisputed lightweight champion at the moment? What is it? Let's look at it. The answer is, according to Mauricio Suleiman, a few months back when he gave an interview on The Zone, he ended up claiming that both of them have legitimate claim. And he explained why. Teofimo Lopez, by beating Vasily Lomachenko, ended up taking the franchise status. And Mauricio Suleiman, the way that he put it, he's the president of the WBC, and the way that he put it, this is a mess, by the way. This is a mess that the WBC created. Hands down. And this is his explanation. That if Teofimo Lopez, after beating, the franchise status cannot transfer. There's no mandatory challengers for this franchise status. Basically, the franchise status got created for Canelo, and the second person to get delineated this status was Vasily Lomachenko. They created this, in other words, to have him create the biggest fight available and represent the WBC in the biggest fight available, in a big payday. This is avoiding mandatory challengers. This is avoiding anything else because there's nobody that could line up for that franchise status. Therefore, they would remove them from the typical running of the show of the WBC with the mandatories and the rankings and so forth. And they would just have them sitting aside as the big money fight. This is a big money fight right here. You're the franchise champion. This is a big money fight. And they basically created that for Canelo when the whole rivalry between Canelo and Triple G was at its highest peak. Vasily Lomachenko ends up getting this franchise status. Then he ends up losing to Teofimo Lopez. So Suleiman says they couldn't have left Vasily Lomachenko as the franchise champion for the WBC when he lost all the other titles, and now Teofimo Lopez would have every other title and be the unified champ and take the ring, the IBF, the WBO, the WBA, but not the WBC. So they made the exception and transferred the franchise status over to Teofimo Lopez. Therefore, he rightfully claims that he's the undisputed champion. I've said it here on the episodes that I covered with Teofimo Lopez. The president of WBC acknowledges him as the undisputed champ as far as his organization is considered, and therefore the world is rightfully calling Teofimo Lopez, and they're okay in calling Teofimo Lopez the undisputed lightweight champ. How does that play out for Devin Haney? Devin Haney, by beating Abdullayev, he won. That fight against Abdullayev was for the interim version of the WBC lightweight title. He stops Abdullayev. He becomes the WBC interim champ. He ends up going on to defend that title against Alfredo Santiago, the first defense of the interim version. He injures his shoulder, and he's unable to defend against Javier Fortuna, who was a mandatory at that time. The WBC places Devin Haney in a recess champion status, or champion in recess status, and they call for a fight between Javier Fortuna and Luke Campbell. When that fight was going to play out, they end up elevating that fight, not for the interim version, but for the full version of the title. As that fight is going on, that fight gets set for April of last year of 2020, and that was the highest peak of the pandemic in April when everything just started going crazy in the world, and that fight never materialized between Campbell and Fortuna. Meanwhile, Haney's getting better. He recovers from his surgery. He's ready to get back in there and defend his title. The other fight doesn't happen between Fortuna and Campbell, and we get Haney in no longer champion in recess. Now he's looking to get in the ring and defend his title. So he appeals. And the WBC ended up seeing it for Devin Haney, and rather than listing him at that time as the champion or the interim champion and having him come back as the interim champion when they were going to make his mandatory challenger fight for the real version of the title, they basically saw the appeal in Devin Haney's favor and elevated him to their full version champion, the WBC lightweight champion. At that time, right around that time, is when Vasily Lomachenko loses to Teofimo Lopez, and that status ends up getting transferred over, and the claims begin of Haney being the paper champ or the Gmail champ or the email champ or whatever it is, right? That he never really beat anybody to win this title. Hence, the WBC is the one that ended up elevating the status of or the stakes for the title between what was to be Fortuna Campbell, which never materialized. Therefore, Haney had a rightful claim to it. He had a good argument to it, and he was ready to defend. He was ready to get back in the ring. They elevated him to the full version champion, and he defended it against Yuriorkis Gamboa. Therefore, both of them are right, and both of them are wrong in claiming that the other's not a real champ. Both of them are right in believing that they are each a champ, and Teofimo and Devin Haney representing that organization. Teofimo doesn't have to abide by ranking, contenders, or mandatories, whereas Devin Haney does. So the big payday fight is works to the favor of Teofimo Lopez by having beat Vasily Lomachenko. Devin Haney still has to deal with the mandatories and so forth. Kind of like what Canelo had to do a few months back in a different division, of course, but had to do it with Avni Yildirim, right? The WBC held his status as a number one contender, the mandatory contender, for over 2 years. And Canelo had to fight him to get him out of the way, and that way he could go contractually agree with another contender and continue trying to unify that division. So that's where the difference is. Devin Haney has to deal with mandatories and the contenders, the rankings. Teofimo Lopez doesn't. As a franchise champion, he's just in it for the big paydays, and he earned that right by having defeated the man in Vasily Lomachenko at that time. That's the issue. That's the confusion with all these titles. Hopefully I helped you clear it up, and we're going to see a real title fight on Saturday between Jorge Linares and Devin Haney. This is either his second title defense of the WBC full version title, or Jorge Linares gets his hand raised and his hands around another major world title in that same division that he's found the most success in his storied career. With that, guys, I leave you. Enjoy the fight this Saturday. Again, surround yourself with good company, good friends and family. Enjoy the fight. If you're able to enjoy a good drink, I'll cheers with you. Salud from afar with some good whiskey, a good cigar, and good company. What else can you ask for? Enjoy the fight. Let's hope that it's not a sleeper. Let's hope that this one delivers as well. And we'll have back-to-back weekends of amazing fights in the lightweight and the junior lightweight that we just witnessed a few days back between Taylor and Ramirez. We're still on a little bit of a high from that fight. What a high-quality fight that was. I leave you with that. Thank you guys again. This was episode 95 of the Toma Todito Show. Hit me up on Twitter. Check me out on Instagram. Shoot me a DM if there's any episodes or any topics that you guys want me to cover for a future episode. Let me know. I'm here for you guys. This is your show. The show belongs to you, and I'm just a voice representing you guys. Thank you guys again. Much love. Have a good night.